listening to the Fifth Down Fantasy Football Podcast with Johnny Slopes
top 3 to 5 pick next year.
and Amy Lott.
For the value you could have gotten at Ryan at,
I really believe that Mike Glennon is the man.
it's going to solve our problems, right?
Eddie Lacy is better than Thomas Rowland.
We now bring you to the Fifth Down.
What is up, Fifth Downers? I am your host, Johnny Slopes, and you're listening to the Fifth Down Fantasy Football Podcast. With me is my partner in crime, K-Mill.
What's up?
And we're going to be talking about a little bit about some rookies today, episode 3. And with us, to help us out with that, is TJ Smith. We drug him out of his war room and into ours. Please introduce yourself.
What's up, fellas? This is TJ Smith. I do a little podcast called the TJ Smith's War Room, where I do a fantasy football podcast where I focus on the NFL draft. I write for DynastySportsEmpire.com, and I do rankings there as far as the draft goes, and I do a lot of dynasty talk too.
Yes. Where can they find some of your work? I know you got Twitter.
Yeah, it's War Room TJ on Twitter, and you can find my podcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, and like I said, the articles are on DynastySportsEmpire.com.
We are so happy to have you on. I know this is under less than ideal conditions. We've had, yet again, another issue with the Zencastr. Was this like our third time having an issue with Zencastr since we've been using them?
We've had quite a bit of issues, and I'm sick and tired of it because it's always one thing or another. So I think we're just gonna go away from that.
I mean, we went from it was perfectly fine to you could only hear me to where we're hearing like weird like radio raves. And I'm surprised by now that we haven't listened to like some lesbian orgy. But like that's another here nor there though. We're not here to talk about like lesbians and orgies and listening bodies. We're here to talk about men. We're here to talk about men in tights that can do athletic things while other men in tights are crashing into them. So let's do this. We're going to talk about some rookies. The Rookie Roundup, Episode 3. This is Show 59. TJ, we're going to start off on quarterbacks. Who do you think is the top quarterback in this draft?
Oh, first of all, I'd rather talk about lesbians. I just want to throw that out there. But also, and I guess Zencastr is not going to be a sponsor anytime soon. So
no.
Moving on to quarterbacks in the draft. From the beginning, I've always been about Deshaun Watson, and I haven't wavered from that pick. I've seen what he can do on the field. He really only has basically one flaw, and I've said this time and time again on other podcasts and my own. If you compare him to Jameis Winston, Winston had as many interceptions as Watson had, but Watson had more touchdowns. He actually has provided more offense in the NCAA in 2 years, and I think that Watson is an absolute winner. I think he's a slam dunk pick, and I think that all this nitpicking is basically for nothing. I do like Mitch Trubisky, though. Don't get me wrong. So I've kind of got a 1A and I've kind of got a 1B. They're basically neck and neck, but I know what I've seen from Watson, so that's why I give him the nod, and I'm not worried about him at the next level at all.
Would you say that Deshaun Watson has the potential to have a higher ceiling than Jameis Winston?
Well, if we're talking about fantasy, I mean that's hard to tell. Really, we got to see what team he's going to be on. The last I heard,
maybe in the long term.
Yeah, I mean, the last I heard, he's going. It's looking like the Kansas City Chiefs, and if that's the case, he's going to have to wait. He's going to have to wait probably a year, if maybe a little less. But he'll be groomed under Andy Reid's system, and that's going to hold him back big time. So we have to kind of see what team he's going to end up on. But I mean, he has the tools to be a good fantasy player. But if we're talking about real NFL, that's hard to say. I think that he's definitely shown that the moment isn't too big for him, and he beat the best team in the NCAAs, and got to go against him twice. He's a 2-time Heisman nominee. What else do you want from a kid?
And the ACC defense is underrated too.
Yeah,
that's right.
What I want to say is I just want to go on record as saying I totally agree with you. I think that Deshaun Watson is the real deal, and I am in total agreement with you. Nothing against Mr. Trubisky, but the kid performs. The bigger the stage for him, the better he gets. That last-minute, win against Alabama in the national championship, it was the most exciting game ever, and the moment never got too big for him. And I think that the only thing I can see, the only flaw I can see in his game is maybe transitioning to the NFL, to an NFL offense. That's my biggest thing with him.
Sure.
I see a lot of plays.
I'll say about the interceptions is, because he did have, 17 last year. So it's a lot. But what he would do is he would throw an interception, but he would come right back in the next series and make amazing plays.
More often than not, he always had his team in a position to win, which was great.
Right.
Yeah, I noticed a lot of his interceptions because either placement or there's bad decision making. So lack of full field vision sometimes.
Yeah, and I've got a few where Mike Williams just slips and falls, and then
he trips over his own feet.
Yeah, absolutely.
I do see a lot of plays in Watson though. He's had some clutch factors against Alabama. He had decent pocket presence. Doesn't look like he gets rattled by pressure too much. He's willing to step up in the pocket even when he knows he's going to take a hit. He could throw a touch. You can also see him throwing some tight windows.
Yep.
He may not have the best velocity we've seen, but maybe from mechanical issues, maybe it could be corrected. He's fairly accurate on the run. He can be used in play-action boots as well. So I really love his mobility. He ran a 4.6 40, so maybe use him in different ways like that as well.
Yeah,
I comp him to a Ryan Tannehill. That's kind of my comp for him. Someone who's going to be good enough, and have the arm, but also have the athleticism to get it done too. So it's just a matter of if he makes the right decisions or not.
Yeah, I mean, so sometimes he does have some lapse in accuracy and some balls sail on him. Sometimes he'll throw a pass, and even though he completed it for a decent gain, it could have been a much bigger gain if the ball was placed more in front of the receiver. I've seen some plays like that as well. He doesn't have this amazing deep ball either, so maybe he's more of a game manager.
But let me just say, though, my last thing about Deshaun Watson, because I think we pretty much beat this to the pulp of it, but, I think that at the level, you look at probably the top 4 guys, the top 4 quarterbacks in this year's draft, and, you look at him, he has the most complete game. Everyone has a considerable amount of issues, and we'll get to those later, but I feel like he's the most pro-ready right now.
All right, last question on Deshaun Watson. Where would you like him to be drafted? What's your dream spot for him?
For me, I think that I want him to go to a not contending team. I want him to be the part of the rebuild process. I would like to see him go to Cleveland. It sounds like he doesn't want to go to Cleveland, but I want to see him be the franchise savior. That's what I would ideally want to see him as.
I think for me, I think I'd like to see him with the Arizona Cardinals.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I just he only has to really wait a year, and Carson Palmer could turn the keys over to him, sooner than that. And it's a good offense, and pair him with an amazing running back for his career. I think that'd be a great spot for him.
Yeah, it'd be a similar situation with in Dallas. I think that's a great fit.
Yeah, I do think that he could take a couple years to actually blossom. Maybe he could actually benefit from sitting a little bit So maybe Chicago is not the best spot for him.
No.
Especially now they signed Glennon, which we know Glenn is not the answer. We know that. I'm just saying, like, I don't think he's the type of quarterback that you can just throw right in there to the Lions. So, the next quarterback I guess we could talk about, we already touched on him a little bit, Mitchell Trubisky. Keegan, what's your thoughts on this quarterback?
Well, I think that the most glaring issue with Mr. Trubisky, and don't get me wrong, he was in an ACC, which is an admittedly weaker conference than the rest of the NCAA. But
I don't know about that.
I feel that way. I feel that way. Not like super on another spectrum weaker, but I'm just saying that where he played, and the big thing is his footwork. I think that's the biggest issue for me. It's been a problem for him. Sometimes I don't think that he's going to have maybe some problems transitioning to the NFL level. Kind of sort of like Blake Bortles, but not like with the inconsistency issues, but just getting the NFL like snap counts and the drops, down. I think that's going to be his big problem.
A good point. TJ, what do you got on Mitch Trubisky?
A lot. I think everything everything that you want in him as an NFL starter, he does have. And I think one thing I like the anticipation. He's pretty accurate. 68% completion rate last year. He's got a big arm, and he's more athletic than you would think. But he's definitely got some inconsistencies to his game. He can be Derek Carr, which I think is kind of at his peak. That could be what he is. Or he can be Blaine Gabbert, man. Like I don't know. He's really hard to tell. And I really wish I would have seen more than a 1 year out of him. I really do, because I think that I want to see more consistency out of him. But first of all, he throws a pretty ball, and he does take care of it too. He only had 6 interceptions last year. So I think a lot of people kind of put him like, well, I'd rather have the guy who threw 6 interceptions than 17. That's such a huge difference. But there's, I don't know, sometimes he sort of underwhelms, and I think that's kind of making people waver. But I think Trubisky's going to be just fine. I really would like to see him sit behind someone before he gets the starting job, and somewhere like the Jets, I think would be nice for him if he sat behind McCown. I think that'd be good. Although they've got Hackenberg, and I think they're going to stick with him. But
he's a hack.
Yeah. I like Trubisky a lot, though.
I do too. And before you go on, Johnny, because I know you're going to say something, I just wanted to clarify one thing. I do think that Trubisky is like a pro-ready quarterback. I think he's going to be just fine. I think the footwork issue and the drops, I think that's a very minor issue. However, I think that he's a guy that, if a franchise drafts him to start day one, I don't think that's how he should be used. I think he should definitely sit a year before he actually ends up starting.
Now, I was just going to ask do you think that he is a first-round talent in this year's draft?
I wouldn't say so. I think that the only reason he would be is if a team was just, he's a home run for them or, whatever, or if it's just a glaring need on their team, I don't know.
What about him, like, going to San Francisco? Maybe he could sit a year behind, what's his face over there, Hoyer, and then become the quarterback.
I would actually like that. I think that would be pretty good for him.
As a San Francisco 49er fan, I'm with that too. And having them pick Trubisky at pick 2, I don't love it, but I would like them. I've been on record on saying I'd love them to trade down and get him a little bit later, and get some extra picks and get this rebuild back in gear. And Kyle Shanahan has done wonders for quarterbacks in his career. So to have Trubisky, I think that's a really nice fit, and I love the fact that Hoyer is there as a bridge quarterback to sort of get him through that first year.
Yeah, he has a lot of traits that Shanahan likes. He has good pocket mobility. Even when he's scrambling out of the pocket, he still keeps his eyes down the field.
Yeah.
It did take him a while to become a starter over at North Carolina, but what I've seen from him on tape is he has pretty good delivery, does a nice job scanning through the field through his progressions. He's mechanically sound. The only thing, like you guys are already touched on, is his footwork needs a little bit of work. He's spent over 98% of the time in shotgun, so that's one little red flag on him. So other than that, though.
And I think that San Francisco is a great choice, and TJ said all the right things on that one. Kyle Shanahan's done wonders with quarterbacks, so I think that his ceiling, is the moon if he wants to reach it,
Hey, I'll take the next quarterback we're going to talk about, Patrick Mahomes out of Texas Tech, 6'2", 225 pounds. He has NFL size. He has an NFL arm. Some will say he's a system quarterback, though, because he's playing in that air raid offense. What I've seen from him, though, is maybe he could actually benefit from and there's another quarterback that could benefit from sitting behind a quarterback. Maybe he sits behind someone in New Orleans and Drew Brees, or maybe he goes to New York or Arizona, somewhere where he could sit and learn a game behind a good quarterback. That's not necessarily a knock on the guy at all. Like, lots of good quarterbacks have came from sitting and then taking some time to learn the game before they came in. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is the poster boy for that one. I think you could also throw in like Tyrod Taylor, maybe even Kirk Cousins. So there's a lot of quarterbacks that have waited their time, and then I think that could really benefit Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, I agree, and it's hard for me to point the finger. I've been hearing a lot of links to Arizona would be a really good fit. I think that the biggest thing is what you brought up was the air raid offense. He has admittedly inflated stats because of it, but what can I say though? You look at the game film on him, and it's like he has a big time arm. He makes some tight window throws. I mean, all the intangibles are there. I think the biggest problem with him is that he's going to have to learn how to play in like a West Coast offense or an actual NFL offense, not a college offense. So I think that could either be something that, comes really easy to him because he has all the intangibles, or it could be something that like completely derails his career. So he's kind of a guy that a team has to look at as a project. They can't look at him as, a franchise savior in like a year, just, sit him a year, develop. No, he needs to sit for a minute and like really develop.
I would agree with that. This is the most exciting quarterback in this draft, and he's my favorite. I have him ranked number 3, but it's mostly because he's not ready for an NFL offense right now. But the dude has magician-like ability at extending plays and improvising. And I've been on record as calling him the Black Brett Favre. And I think that he's going. If he gets a good team, if he goes to like a good team that's really solid, I think I'm going to be super excited. I'm going to pick him up in all kinds of dynasty drafts. But if he goes to a team that is kind of a dumpster fire, I'm not going to be as excited unless I see some crazy turnaround, because there's a lot of potential here, but there's also a lot of potential to fail too. And he's been kind of comped as like a Jay Cutler type of a player, just very unconventional style and a total gunslinger. So I really like him as a player, but I can't really get behind his play until I really see it in the NFL, because he'll make plays where you're just like, no, don't do that, and then it works. So it's like
he's the mobile version of Matthew Stafford.
Yeah.
Yeah. The arm talent is there. As far as just pure arm talent, this guy is clearly the best. So it's more of that. It's that like flick of the wrist style of throwing, like a Matthew Stafford. And so he's very enticing. And I know that all hands were on deck at his pro day from the Arizona Cardinals. So it definitely seems like they're into him. And if that's the situation, then that might work out. But it's going to be an adventure, whoever gets it.
Yeah, definitely a project.
I'm right there with you, TJ. He's one of my favorite quarterbacks in this draft. He's got, like you said, he has the big arm. His accuracy actually improved last year. He's really starting to follow through with his throws. I love the way he's willing to challenge coverages, and he's actually pretty mobile too. He can be a dual threat. So he's been working on some eye manipulation. So he's definitely taking this thing serious. I'd really like to see him actually though take a step back and learn a little bit. Is there any quarterback in particular that you would like to talk about, TJ?
Well, the rest of the class, I'm a DeShone Kizer hater. So
yeah,
I don't know. I don't have much to really talk about with Kizer. Kizer is he's very polarizing because everyone wants to point to his tape from two years ago, and it's fine. And I see him make NFL throws, and it's nice to see. But I just don't see him elevating the rest of his team, and I think people are really fooled by his talent, and I can't wait for him to go into the NFL because I just don't think this guy's got it. I think he's like a Josh Freeman to me. And
pray for failure.
Yeah, he looks good, like he looks the part. And if I hear one more analyst say, well, he's got an NFL quarterback body, God damn it! Like I just want to throw my.
That sounds like a female.
Yeah. Because
he's got a nice body.
Yeah,
I'll take him. He has a nice body.
It's lazy, is what it is. And Greg Cosell recently said that he sees that Kizer has slow eyes, meaning that he's just late. He's late in his decision making. And
he gets through his progressions real slowly.
Yeah, but then he'll call audibles at the line, and then they work. So it's like there's something to work with there. There's a mold of an NFL quarterback there. But if someone picks him in the first 5 picks of this draft, I'm going to look at that franchise and I'm going to be very disappointed in that because I just think that that's just a bad evaluation of a guy. So I guess in a way I did just talk about Kizer. There are other quarterbacks in this class that I think could be better professional quarterbacks than Kizer, but I mean that's the last of the top 4, I would say though.
I think I'd rather have Chad Kelly over him.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But let me just go on record.
I've seen some good things out of him at least.
Yeah. Well, let me go on record of saying, hey TJ, I hope he doesn't go to the 49ers, right? But yeah.
I don't need that. I don't need that.
But seriously, I think that the biggest thing that I have to say about Kizer, and I'll be very short about it, it just seemed like his team wasn't very good around him at Notre Dame. They haven't really been, a really competitive team as far as, they're always in the rankings and stuff, but they're not a very good team. And as the team struggled, he just kind of didn't rise to the occasion, and it seemed like he did have those lazy eyes and stuff. And I think that's the biggest thing. It was kind of like, in the NCAA tournament, Lonzo Ball, this whole time, he just, seems unmotivated. That's what I saw from, Kizer. He just was very unmotivated and just kind of like, oh, well, I'm going to the NFL next year, so fuck it,
I would
every time I watched him, he just looked bad.
Well,
yeah, that's true.
I think that he's a good kid, and I think that he's a try-hard guy. He never really took quarterback seriously until his senior year in high school. He was always a three-sport athlete, and so quarterback was kind of in the background as far as something that he could do. So he's not really brought up being a quarterback, and he was less than 60% completion rate last year, 58.7%. He's not accurate, and I think that he's a guy that they're trying to push up because maybe there's some sort of Notre Dame love or something like that. But I will disagree with you. In 2015, that team was good. Like Stanley, the left tackle, he was good. I
do hear that about their line being really bad last year. That kind of causes numbers to dip. Is that where you're going with it?
Right. Well, I think that just in an overall sense of the team. Will Fuller was on the team, 2 years ago, and C.J. Prosise, like these were good players, and so I think that he definitely got his level of play lifted up due to some of these other players. I don't think he did the opposite.
Yeah,
okay,
that's fair.
I can agree with you on that one, but at the same time, in any of his years in Notre Dame, they never won a bowl game, and they also were very middling. They were like, their wins and losses were very close together is what I was trying to say by that. But you are right. He was surrounded by a lot of talent in 2015, definitely.
Is there any other quarterbacks that we need to mention in this draft, or can we move on to the running backs?
Let's move on.
All right. I know we're typically, like a redraft podcast, but, all the talk about since the Super Bowl is, get these first-round picks for these. This could be the epic running back of all time, and then the combine happens, and now it's like, well, how excited were we about this running back class, really?
Yeah. Very true.
So, has that changed your mindset on who the top running back is in this class, TJ?
No, I'm sticking with Dalvin Cook. I think that I've watched so much tape of him. I've watched and I've seen him dominate, and I've seen him do everything that I need to see in a running back, and just the vision that he has. He's just a natural running back talent. The main thing that really actually I'd say there's two things. There's some character issue questions there, but then there's also the fumbles too. 1 out of every 59 touches it ends up in a fumble, and that's terrible. But that's hopefully something that can be fixed. But I think that's always something that I have to bring up. But the thing is, I've seen the talent, and it's good. It's really good, like all-around talent. So with Dalvin Cook, I don't care about the combine. I really don't. I've seen what I need to see.
Are you going to tell me that you're going to let a few bad metrics on some random day that's just going to erase the fact that the man has lightning fast lateral cuts, or they're using the 3 different running schemes at Florida State, or they flourish in all 3 of them, or he possesses amazing vision and bait defenders with his rushing abilities? Does any of that actually have an effect on any of the actual abilities that you see with your own eyeballs? It should.
You just answer the question for me. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, you put it in perspective. I'll sit here and I'll be the disagreement, but before I do disagree, I will say that I think Dalvin Cook is a fantastic running back, and I think that the character issues and the combine issues, those are kind of non-factors to me too. It's not that I think that he's a bad running back, because I think he's absolutely great, and I think he's going to be a great addition to another team. But I'm going to go ahead and say I'm still, with the injury history and everything, I'm a Fournette guy. I think this guy's an absolute bruiser. I mean, think about how fast he ran the 40 with how big he is. I mean, he's the biggest running back in this draft class by far. And, I mean, this guy, would take games over by himself, and you would just see these amazing numbers. Was that because he was in LSU system? I don't know. I'm willing to gamble on it. I love Leonard Fournette, and I think that he could definitely be that guy. I think that the biggest fits at the NFL level for me are like the Panthers or the Jets. I think those are good fits for him. And I think that if he goes into a run-heavy scheme, I think that the sky's the limit for this guy.
He's a big dude. He has some speed. He can use his second gear to get around the corner. He ran a 4.5 40. He's a big guy, but he doesn't really have a lot of wiggle. He just kind of relies to just kind of run through people, and I'm kind of worried about how that's going to transition into the NFL.
Yeah, that's a common problem that people see with him. I'd like to see what TJ thinks, though.
I think he's got Trent Richardson potential. Honestly.
Wow.
I do, but I will say that he is my number 2 running back in this class. So with that said, he's right behind Dalvin. As far as just natural talent, I've known about him since he was a junior in high school, and I don't think he's taking this process serious enough. And I see I see the same type of thing that Trent Richardson went through with thinking that everything was going to just fall into place for the guy. The Panthers is a perfect fit, absolutely perfect fit. He's going to need a power running scheme. He's going to need that fullback in front of him, what I saw was a guy who did not try last year, just didn't try. There was no effort in there to just crush the competition. He did what he needed to do the year prior. I mean, the man had 300 carries, almost 2,000 yards, and 22 touchdowns in the SEC. He doesn't really catch the ball all that well. Hopefully he's going to have. Hopefully he gets a little bit better at that. But if he doesn't have the drive, he's going to fail. And I'm just throwing it out there that could be a possibility. He's not a slam dunk pick. Okay, so if people think he is, he's not. And he doesn't
I tend
block.
to agree with you.
He doesn't block.
Is this a bad?
So
Go ahead.
I don't know. Like that, I can't put my stamp of approval as this guy being the number one guy. However, he's got so much talent that he definitely can be, the next great player. But also showing up 10 pounds heavier just because it's so-called water weight or whatever, that's not good, guys. That's lazy.
Steady Lacy style.
Yeah, that is cheeseburger Lacy. That's trademark. But here's my thing.
Yeah, I want to ask a question about him real fast.
Mm-hmm.
Is it bad to compare him to like a guy like Latavius Murray, just like a real big dude that could run fast in a straight line?
No, that's fine. I mean, that's relatively accurate. The thing is that he showed so much more skill in that, and especially in that division. Yeah, that I think it's you can't quite compare him to it, but I can see what you're saying there. Yeah.
You know what?
Hey, Kimmy, what do you want to say?
I can agree, I can see where you're coming from because it's absolutely warranted. I think that waterway thing was an issue for me too. But here's the thing. What you're saying to him is actually kind of a credit because you were saying, he kind of just did what he needed to do last year. He was dealing with that ankle injury and, pretty much all season. But in the limited amount of games he did play, I mean, it was fantastic. It was highlight reel stuff, man. I mean, and I get what you're saying. It's all warranted. And, when we're talking about the draft, it's all speculation anyways. But, I mean, in a lot of those games, man, it was fantastic highlight reel stuff that we were seeing from this guy. And I think that go ahead.
What about Alabama? What about against Alabama?
Okay, that was not good. But
what about his upright running ability? And he's a big dude. About him taking like a lot of lower body shots, and he already has some lower body injuries in his past. Does that not concern you a little bit about him as well?
Oh, that absolutely does concern me. Yeah, that's my biggest fear with him. It's not that he has the natural ability. It's not his size. It's not the water weight. My biggest fear with Leonard Fournette is that his injury history, and I think that's the biggest thing, and I think that's a totally warranted thing. He's going to get a lot of lower body shots, and I think that's the biggest thing that scares me about him.
All right.
Who has a better – wait, hold on. Who has a better career, Derrick Henry or Leonard Fournette?
Oh, without a doubt, it's Fournette.
Yeah, Fournette, easily.
Okay.
We just got to look at it from all angles, TJ.
Yeah.
I guess we beat the horse on that one. We can go over to the wild card of the draft, Joe Mixon. Some people would say that he's probably the most talented running back in this draft, but because of off a few issues, that bad boy do we demonize him as a fantasy football owner, or do we look past his off-field issues?
Some team's going to pick him up, man, and it's going to be a home run. I think that when we were actually talking the other week, and I think you made a perfect comparison. He's like a mini Le'Veon Bell. I mean, like not mini as in that, but I think that he's just a younger Le'Veon Bell. That's the more correct term. But I think that he has everything. He has the issues, and the franchise might be worried about, what does it make him look like by getting him. But all kinds of teams have been interviewing him, and from what I understand from that, They've liked what they've seen from him. So somebody's going to take the chance and pick him up, and I think that he's going to be great.
I think the only thing that you can compare to Le'Veon Bell is just his running style, and his body kind of looks like Le'Veon Bell, but the dude ran a 4.43 at his pro day, and Le'Veon Bell ran a 4.6. Le'Veon Bell, to me, when I scouted him, was a big bruising back. He didn't show what he's showing in the NFL. And he wasn't that guy. So
he was a completely different guy in Michigan State.
Changed his running style, and now everyone wants to run like Le'Veon Bell. Mixon is so damn talented. It's stupid. And the problem I have with Mixon is that I have a very small sample size with him. So I want to see more, but what I have seen, I've loved. The only problem I have with him is his fumble rate's a little too high for me. He's 1 out of every 73 touches, and he dances behind the line a lot. And those are the only two on the field issues that I have with him. Obviously, the off field issues are there, but
have you seen anyone pick him as the 101 in any of your dynasty drafts so far?
Well, unfortunately, I haven't had any dynasty drafts just yet. I just haven't been in any leagues that do it this early. But if I did see him go at the 101, I wouldn't bat an eye. I mean, if I ever had a 101 pick, can't remember the last time I've had a 101 pick, but it might be him. I would very much consider him.
Yeah, and to clarify my comments, I wasn't comparing him to a Le'Veon Bell in college. I was comparing him to like a pro Le'Veon Bell. Like I think that he could be that talented. That's what I was trying to say.
I think in redraft, I'm not as concerned about him because he's probably going to end up as like a free agent anyways. But in a dynasty mode, I might be a little bit concerned about him, just going forward about his off the field issues. But the talent is definitely there. He's very patient and he's quick to burst. I really like the talent. Where he could probably end up falling in the draft too, like 3rd, 4th round, maybe even. Yeah. I'd like to see him go to Oakland.
That'd be a nice fit.
Behind the second best line in the NFL, sure, why not?
I think that honestly would be a perfect fit for him.
Yeah, well then he would be the 101. Because he'd have no one that he'd really have to really compete with. The other two guys there, Jalen Richard, is good, but he's not Joe Mixon. DeAndre Washington.
There are questions on Joe Mixon on whether or not he could be a bell cow. I know because Oklahoma, they used to split backfield because they had another guy that was really good, Samaje Perine.
Yeah.
And right. he never really got that full workload that we wanted to see.
Sure. Yeah, that offense at Oklahoma was stupid. It was too good.
Yeah.
All right. I wanted to also talk about Christian McCaffrey. I think that he's a guy that might get a little bit underappreciated by some of the NFL teams because maybe they don't use him right away. Because I mean, people are like, oh, he could be a heavy workload running back. Well, maybe that's so, but I mean, a lot of teams I think might see him as like a 3rd down kind of guy. What's your thoughts on Christian McCaffrey?
Well, I think I'll start off. Okay, so let's look at what he's good at. He's a great football player, fantastic football player. He really doesn't get much better than that as far as the college career goes as a running back. But let's look at the bad things. He's undersized. There's so many ways you can go about this, but if he's in the right fit, I mean, you could see him be like a Danny Woodhead. He could be a little bit more than a Danny Woodhead. He could, he's going to carry some special teams load too. But what I see is a movable chess piece. You can put anywhere on the field. You can line up as a receiver. You can line up as a running back. I mean, you can work him in so different sets and different types of formations. You can put him on special teams. It's just amazing how versatile this guy is. So if he has the right fit, I think that he could have a great NFL career. But I think if a team grabs him and they're not really sure how to use him, I mean, then we could see, his career not really flourish the way we want it to. I'd like to see him go to Denver. I mean, I'm a Denver fan. I know I'm being a homer here, but I feel like he'd be a really good fit there. But I don't see him as an every down back. I don't think a team should draft him for that purpose.
I've compared him to Reggie Bush, a guy that is not going to be necessarily a bell cow, but he's going to be a complement in a running back committee and be a damn good one. He's just, like you said, he's a good all-around football player, and there's really not a lot of flaws to his game. And on top of that, he dominated at a very young age. He's not even 21 years old yet. He took 337 carries, at 18 years old, with over 2,000 yards, 8 touchdowns on the ground, 45 catches, and 5 more TDs through the air. He broke Barry Sanders' all-purpose yards record. He's awesome. So the thing is, I think that in the NFL, they're going to have to adjust to what he can do, because he doesn't run through the A-gap. He really doesn't. Like, that's not really his game. He's going to have to get to the corners. I love him as a wide receiver. He's just crazy versatile. It's just a matter of if a team uses him correctly. The Saints would be really a lot of fun. That would be great. I hope he goes to a good team with a good offense, because then we're gonna love watching him. But as far as being a 3-down back, I think you're kind of fooling yourself. But I do think that sky's the limit for this guy. But you just got to put him in the spots to succeed.
So I think we have a extremely similar view on him.
He's the perfect pro. He can fit in pretty much any offense. He can run. He can catch. My only real concern about him is maybe the NFL overlooking him because they don't give a shit about your fantasy teams, and maybe he just goes by the wayside or goes to a bad landing spot. I really like him going to the Saints. That's, I think, a pretty popular one. I know there's an early one about him going to the Patriots. That dream was crushed long ago. But, I really do think the Saints is a pretty good landing spot for him. Is there a sleeper running back in this draft that you're excited about, TJ?
Like 10 of them. I like this class. I've got guys that are really heavily beloved by a lot of guys, like Donta Foreman and Marlon Mack. Like, I have them in the 14 and 15 range, and that's how much good talent there is in this class. And we haven't seen a running back class like this in a while. So sleeper, I mean, like what level of sleeper do you want? Like, I got all kinds of different tiers of sleepers. I got guys that probably won't be drafted, but will definitely be relevant in the coming years, like Tariq Cohen out of North Carolina A&T. Guy's 5'6", 179 pounds. Amazing tape, like the fastest and quickest running back I've seen in a long time, and he's a bell cow. It's I can compare him to Darren Sproles, and he's got over 10-inch hands. And he's just he's an amazing player. I don't know, Joseph Yerby out of Miami, it's like a small and stocky back who wasn't really used correctly, and he wasn't used enough. He was definitely like the guy in 2015, but there were some other running backs that came in and were more of a committee, and he's like Ray Rice to me. So there's tons of guys, there's tons of names that are going to be not even talked about on any podcast, but they're good running backs. I've got tons.
Yeah, go ahead, Johnny.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say those are some great points, TJ, because that was great in-depth analysis. Because I haven't even looked at those guys, and that's an admittedly weak subject for me. So thanks for bringing that up. I'm going to have to go with a guy that will go on the draft board, but I do think that he's going to get overlooked because it's like TJ was saying, it's such a deep draft class. I think this is a fantastic class. But Kareem Hunt from Toledo, I mean, the game film on this guy is crazy. just absolute bell cow. He's got great size. The guy's great. He's had some off-field issues, but I think that he's going to definitely make a great addition somewhere.
Yeah, he's caught 41 passes as a senior. He's got a real compact body. He's under 6 foot, but he's 215. He's got pretty good elusiveness, and I've seen him have some really good balance. It's a nice little running back to put as part of your backfield over there. He has some jump cut ability, some good vision. Really it's all about what kind of scheme he goes into. I think he's more of like a zone scheme runner, and he's adequate to produce in like a timeshare backfield, I think.
I can agree with that.
Kareem Hunt, I mean, there's a few backs in here who have definitely three down potential. He's one of them, and just really solid vision, and better than average balance. Like he can get knocked around and not go down. Like just super impressive yak. He fumbled once in 731 touches, one time. So the dude is as solid as you could possibly get. I kind of comp him to like a C.J. Anderson.
That's a perfect comparison.
Not the fastest, but will get it done. And I love his long-term outlook. And I had him ahead of Christian McCaffrey at one point, but I changed my mind. I put Christian McCaffrey just ahead of him. But yeah, no, I'm a Hunt guy.
I like Jeremy McNichols. He's another interesting back in this backfield, elusive player in the backfield, has good change of direction. He's not afraid to run in between the tackles. And in 2015, he had 51 receptions. He's another guy that could potentially have like a 3-down role. But the only thing is once he gets past that first line of defense, he always seems to find the safety. He's always getting tackled in the open field, so that's something he's going to have to work on. But I do like his potential to be a 3-down back. Maybe he also needs to work a little bit on his pass protection as well.
Yeah, I mean, he is, he's only 5'9", so there's admittedly some flaws in the game, but I agree with you, man. This guy has what it takes. He just needs to, put it at the next level.
And he's 5'9", but he's got the weight to be a guy in this league. But I think what puts him over the top is his catching skills. Like he was a former wide receiver, so he's got like Velcro hands. Like it's awesome. Like I've got a bunch of different highlights from him where he's making outstanding wide receiver catches. So the only thing is he's got a significant shoulder injury to keep an eye on. But Doug Martin came out of Boise State. Honestly, I like McNichols more than Doug Martin, and that guy was definitely heralded as
the first rounder.
Yeah. I like McNichols a lot, mostly because of his all-around game.
Yes, he definitely does have a lot of the puzzle pieces to the puzzle in that game. He needs to get a little bit more flourished. I think that he could be a pretty good back. He has a sneaky 3-down potential. So definitely looking excited to see where he goes. Maybe he goes to Kansas City or something like that. Camille, is there any running backs that you want to mention that we haven't talked about already?
No, I'm actually pretty good.
All right, let's go over to some wide receivers. Is your number one receiver Corey Davis, TJ?
Yeah, I flip-flopped between Mike Williams and Corey Davis a lot. And when I wrote my article on DynastySportsEmpire.com, I went with Corey Davis. I just think that his overall game just speaks volumes for his potential. And I recently was watching him again. Kind of reminded me of Amari Cooper a little bit. We don't know what Corey Davis's speed is, so we can't really compare it necessarily to Amari Cooper to see if he's comparable. I've heard the Jordan Matthews comparison, and okay, yeah, I'm sort of on board with that. But I just feel like he's better, and just God, he was so dominant. Of course, he's playing for Western Michigan, so of course he should dominate there. But I think he's got the skills to translate to the next level. I like what Mike Williams brings to the table as far as where he wins. But like I said earlier in this podcast, like the guy's slipping and falling all over the place, and I think he's got a lot of like Kelvin Benjamin to him, where he can frustrate people. But if Mike Williams gets everything together and he does what he needs to do, I think he's the next Alshon Jeffrey. But Corey Davis is just, he just brings every single thing that you want in a lead wide receiver to the table. So that's why I went with Davis over Williams.
Yeah, I like him because he peaked early in college, which is ideal for him because, he went to a smaller school with lesser competition. But, he did do good against some other bigger competition. Like you said, he had outstanding production. He's very competitive, and I really like how he's a focused ball catcher. I think he has the talents to be the best receiver in this draft class. I've heard even comps to him being compared to like Terrell Owens. So who knows how kind of speed is, because he's getting like ankle surgery, correct?
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
I agree with both of you guys. I think he's the consensus. He's polished. His route running is fantastic. Probably the best I've seen. I think also my reasoning for putting Mike Williams below him is because of the reason that Mike Williams kind of reminds me of Kelvin Benjamin. You couldn't have said it better. I just, Davis just looks like that all-around guy. I would bank more on him than I would on Williams.
All right. Yeah. Mike Williams is a good player in his own right. He has some pretty good size. He got the size you want in your number one receiver. He's able to create separation, and I'm moving on. And then my thing about him is he seems like he makes a lot of contested catches. Like maybe he doesn't get enough separation at the next level, and he didn't really. He didn't. I don't think he ran a 40. So who knows like how fast he really is.
Well, he ran a 4.56 at his pro day, so he can. He can. I think he's athletic enough. He's just. I just don't necessarily see.
So do you think it's more like a 4? Do you think it's more like a 4.6 at a combine then?
Sure. Yeah, but I just don't see the kind of dominance that you want from a guy. At that stature, your number one wide receiver. Like he's not Mike Evans. So I think that he's a former basketball player and he kind of plays like it. But in the red zone, like he's gonna be great. Like he's gonna be super competitive in the red zone. But he's got some deep threat chops too. So that's what you want to see. He's definitely not a guy that can only really do one thing. But I think that he makes enough mistakes for me to just put him under Corey Davis. But then because of the rest of this class, doesn't really give me a lot of confidence to put them anywhere close to these guys. I just think that Corey Davis is just the alpha as far as these two go.
Do you think there's a chance that Mike Williams could fall to the end of the first or maybe even into the second round?
Yeah, I do. But I do. But it depends on if the NFL really, values him like that, and if they really, because the thing is, I've seen Philip Dorsett go in the first round, so like anything can happen. Kelvin Benjamin, I didn't think was necessarily a first rounder, so I think that if we're comparing him to Kelvin Benjamin, then he probably shouldn't be there, but he's going to be propped up, especially because I think the rest of this class is good, but just not great. Like I think there's some sneaky value in this class, but there's not a lot of guys where I can really feel like, they're going to be franchise guys. There is talent. I have a feeling there's going to be some undrafted guys that are going to really come up big in this class, just because it's kind of got that sneaky, deep feeling, but not overwhelming.
That's a pretty good take. I'd like to see Mike Williams go like in the late first round, go to a good team. I think that would probably be most beneficial to him. He does seem like a bigger receiver that's going to rely on like a lot of volume, and that's the only way he's going to get it done in his rookie year.
What if he ends up on the Saints?
On the Saints? I don't know why he would. I mean, that would honestly surprise me. But, I mean, I don't know if that would necessarily help him or hurt Michael Thomas, to be honest.
Yeah, I guess they kind of already have a player like him in Michael Thomas. Because I think that's kind of where Mike Williams is for me. It's kind of, I think, is a Mike Thomas.
He's the Mike Thomas of last year.
Yeah, well, Thomas to me last year was my fifth wide receiver, and I got a little bit of flack for that actually. A lot of people didn't really think that he was that good, and that's kind of where I envision Mike Williams at that point. I don't want to prop him up to something that he's not necessarily. But I mean, at least he's super physical, but just like the speed is on the field is just kind of average for me. So I think he will struggle in getting separation.
All right, let's move on to John Ross. He had a late breakout age, but he dazzled everybody at the combine. He broke the speed record. He broke the throttle. That might actually propel him into the first round. There's some teams that tend to fall in love with speed at the next level. Could you see him being the first wide receiver off the board, TJ?
No. I think that would be a huge mistake. I do think that he's a really good deep threat, and I think that he adds a little bit more as he's not just a deep threat, but he's fast, but he is fragile. Like he couldn't even get through, a 40-yard dash without hurting himself. So I think that I would not want to gamble on him in the first round, but his talent and his speed will translate to the NFL. And I like the kid too. Like he's super smart and he's super hardworking, and I think he's going to do right in this league. But if it was me, if I was a GM, I wouldn't gamble on him personally.
Yeah, same here.
You also got to remember that he tore his ACL in 2015 as well.
Yeah, he's already got a significant injury history, and the fragileness is something that would just sway me from him. Lightning fast speed, but he's a guy that he does have a lot of other intangibles, but he could end up being at the NFL level just a one-trick pony. He could be a Ted Ginn. We don't know. So for me, I wouldn't want to stake my franchise on that.
Well, my thing with him is he did have that late breakout age. How dominant was he really at the college level? He could, and I think he'll end up being more than what Ted Ginn ever will be, because he uses that speed really good to set up like curl routes and comeback routes. So he can work a lot of stuff off of his speed. They didn't even really try to do the quick slants to him or anything like that either. So that's another part of his game that could be polished.
I think at his peak, he's Brandon Cooks.
True.
I like that. I like John. Actually, if John Ross was to replace Brandon Cooks, I'd be okay with that.
Good bit.
Who next on this list would you like to talk about at wide receiver? Anyone?
Go ahead.
Well, I'll talk about my guy Carlos Henderson. I have him behind Mike Williams and Corey Davis. I love this guy's all-around game. He just dominates like all levels of the field, and he does not go down on first contact. Just will not. I love his competitiveness. His yak, his yards after catch are just excellent. He's pretty elusive, like good hand technique. Can take a hit while he's catching, and just navigates through traffic really well. Just so like really excellent vision. Plus, on top of that, he was offensive and special teams player of the year last year. I kind of comp him to a Jarvis Landry, a guy who is not going to. You look at him physically, and you're just like, okay, I guess he can play in this league.
Consistent, I guess.
Yeah, but dude, once he gets on the field and makes things happen, he's special. So And I don't like to throw that word around a lot, but he's from what I've seen on tape. And I need to see more tape. I will definitely, give a bit of a caveat there and say I need to see more tape. But from what I've seen, I've fell in love with this guy. This guy is great.
By mentioning Carlos Henderson, TJ, you are doing the world a service. He came out of the gallows of heavens or hell or whatever. Matt Harmon did a reception perception on the guy, and it seems like the Twitter universe exploded. This guy has some skills, though. Like you said, he can get it done at all levels of the field. He's able to make the ball catch in traffic. He's definitely going to be a guy you're going to want to keep your eye on come draft day.
I haven't seen that reception perception yet, so actually I'll look at it after this.
A guy that I kind of like this going into this year is Zay Jones. He set the NCAA record for most receptions with 399, and he set a season record of 158 last year. He's a hands catcher. He can play on the outside. He can play in the slot. You can move him around. Shields his body over the middle. I love his versatility. He works because he could work on the outside or the slot. He seems like a guy who can be like a high volume situation, be like a possession guy. He might not be like a high touchdown type of guy, but I think he could be a guy in the right scheme. He could be a guy that can be a possession receiver.
Yeah.
I'm going to slightly disagree with you on this one. I'm lukewarm on him. I have him a lot lower than some other people, and I think that my problem with him is he's more of a possession receiver, and he doesn't really do much after the catch. Like, I haven't really seen him do a lot once he does get the ball. He doesn't really fight off defenders. He can get out muscled.
It did seem like a lot of his passes came from screens and like little short throws.
Sure. And his measurables were actually better than I anticipated, but really his game to me just screams Tajay Sharp. A guy who's good, but not necessarily going to really take you to the next level there.
TJ, what's your take on Taywan Taylor out of West Kentucky?
I like him. I've got him in my top 10. Just excellent. Like functional speed, clear understanding of how to run routes. Like he's got the full tree. He sets up his defender extremely well. Like the one-on-one, he's just a complete nightmare. His burst after
Would you take him over Cooper Kupp all day?
Fuck yeah, dude. Don't talk to me about Kupp. That
was like the big thing, and now it's just dead.
I'm the biggest Kupp hater, and I can tell you why. But Taywan Taylor is he's awesome. He impressed me quite a bit. Had 17 touchdowns in 2015, and then another 17 in 2016. I think he's going to do great, and I think maybe he's considered a sleeper because his name isn't really being mentioned with some of these other guys, but. He's kind of like a Randall Cobb to me, just because he's not the biggest guy. He's like 5'11", 200 pounds. But
yeah, I see him in a slot role.
Yeah, me too. And I think that's fine. Maybe like a Victor Cruz or something like that at some point. But I like Taylor's game a lot.
Yeah, he was the focal point of a bad offense. And he still put up some pretty good numbers.
Sure.
He's really dynamic after the catch. I think he does need to work on his route running a little bit, but he also can question his strength of competition. I know he did have one pretty good game against Alabama. I think he had like 9 for 120 or something like that. That's another thing you got to be concerned about as well. Camille, is there anyone that you want to mention?
No, actually, I think you guys did a great job of bringing up these guys. I don't have anything to add.
All right, TJ, is there anyone else that you'd like to mention before we move on to tight ends?
Yes. Let me talk about Cooper Kupp.
All right, let the hate begin. Let the hate rain down.
He's going to be 24 years old when he's drafted, okay? He's his functional speed is slow. So I think that once he got to the Senior Bowl, and I think he did some great things there, and I think people really, it opened their eyes up to what his potential is. My thing, and I've stood by this, and if I'm wrong, feel free to tweet me, War Room TJ, and let me know that that this guy's going to be great, because I don't see it. Although Steve Smith at the Combine said that Cooper Kupp is his number one in this class, and I don't want to disagree with Steve Smith Sr. That's the last guy I want to disagree with. So, but to me, he's going to be feared by DBs, because he's the kind of guy that DBs do not want to line up against, because this man knows how to run routes. Okay, so but to me, he's like an Austin Collie. He's a guy that's going to get things done, but in a very, very, very limited way. So I think when a guy like Mike Mayock has him as his 4th overall wide receiver, I'm baffled. I'm absolutely baffled
by that too. Yeah, I don't.
It's a bit too high.
That's terrible. That's either he didn't have enough time to get through the wide receivers, which is totally fine. If that's the case, if Mike Mayock can't get through every single player, I get it. The man has to go through so many players. He has to go through almost every player coming out in this draft. So if he hasn't gotten through the wide receivers, because there's a lot of them, that's fine. But the thing is, he's going to be the kind of guy who's going to be like, no, I saw this and this should have happened, and the NFL team that drafted him messed up. No, Cooper Kupp is he's not going to be an NFL star. He's not.
Yeah, and this is an admittedly big draft class. So, this is so deep. I just don't know how you could get away with calling him the number 4. That's just asinine to me.
The last guy I want to talk about before we move on to tight ends is I want to talk about Chris Godwin. He's been building up a lot of hype. He's been getting all of this praise. TJ, are you buying in on the Chris Godwin hype?
I love Chris Godwin. He's neck and neck with Taywan Taylor to me. I've been on Godwin for a while. Like when I was watching Hackenberg, I was like, dude, who's this Godwin kid? Like he was really sticking out, and so I always sort of penned him as like one of my top guys coming into this year. And he slipped under the radar, and I think now people are starting to realize him, and he's got everything, man. Just everything that you want in a wide receiver, but you have to watch the tape. Like you have to really dig in to see what this guy can do. And he has like no problem with contact. He's great concentration on the catch, impressive balance and yak, and just excellent hands, good red zone target. He can block, like he blocks really well, and some of his numbers really surprise people. He ran a 4-second short shuttle, which is awesome for a guy who's 6'1", 209 pounds, and a 4.4 240. So this guy has it. I think I'm glad he's not totally under the radar now. I'm not glad because I would have picked him up in drafts and got him in the 3rd round or whatever. But that's obviously not going to happen anymore. But I like this player a lot. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, being a Michigan guy, I got to see this guy play a lot. He's very, like you said, very electric. He's what you look for in the NFL. I am hearing though like some second round grades on him, so it'll be kind of interesting to see where he goes.
Yeah, I comped him to like a Dante Moncrief. Kind of a guy who's definitely going to make his presence felt, but be a really excellent number 2 wide receiver.
Yeah, I can definitely get on board with that. I think we can go over to the tight end position now. I think I will say one other guy I do like, kind of interesting to see how they use him is Curtis Samuel.
Mm-hmm.
he ran like a under the table 4.340 right after John Ross.
He did, and Samuel was like, when I was first doing running back, I was evaluating him as a running back because that's what he played at Ohio State, and I liked him as a running back, but in my notes I was like, I'd kind of like to see this guy as a wide receiver. So just because those wide receiver skills are so good, and him lining up in the slot was just was electric. So I can see him as like a Tavon Austin style player, because once this guy gets the ball in his hands, he becomes a running back, and he becomes someone that can take a hit and and keep on going, whereas Tavon Austin can't. He's getting like Percy Harvin comp. So kind of one of those guys where it's just like he's more like an offensive weapon type of a player. But he was the best player Ohio State had last year. He was their best weapon for sure. So this guy's super tough. He doesn't really fumble that much. He's a little on the smaller side, but he ran a 4.31, dude. He could play.
Yes, very, very exciting player. Let's talk about this tight end class. This could be the tight end class that could save the tight ends for the years to come. I know a lot of people are excited about this. What is it like, a tight end that used to play basketball and now it's like they're a football player? Do they make that decision by like saying, no, actually, I kind of want to make less money playing in the NFL than playing in the NBA, or is it just they're just not good enough to make it in basketball?
Yeah, I think that's pretty much the case. They just aren't good enough to break into the NBA. But yeah, that's a good point.
I don't know. I was just thinking about that when I was looking over the tight ends. This could be the class of tight ends that could save fantasy football for years to come. O.J. Howard, he's exceptionally gifted. He's probably the best athlete we've seen at tight end in a while. Can you get behind teams drafting him as a top 10 player this year, TJ?
I would not like to see a tight end go top 10. I think that
I've seen it in a lot of mocks.
I don't do mocks. Okay, I don't do mock drafts. I think it's fun for fans to sort of make believe about who their team could get, and get themselves a nice little chubby, thinking about getting these guys, and I think that's great. I think that the process of doing a mock draft is good for readership and for entertainment, absolutely. But O.J. Howard should not go in the top 10 picks. If you're a GM, I think that would be crazy. A first rounder, fine. There really isn't that many first round tight ends that come into the league. Eric Ebron was the last one I can think of that really went early, and see how that turned out. That hasn't really worked out. So I like O.J. Howard. I like him as a player. He's definitely my number one tight end in this class. He does everything that you need from a tight end. He's incredibly athletic, and he also blocks extremely well. He looks like he could have played power forward. He does get the Jimmy Graham comp a lot. But people will say that his production wasn't that great. It wasn't that bad either. They just didn't use him.
Look at the team he played for too. They ran a lot.
Yeah, totally. They had so many weapons on that squad. I hate to follow up anything that Mike Mayock does, but he compared him to Greg Olsen, and I have to agree. I think he's pretty much a carbon copy of Greg Olsen, and I think he'll be a good tight end for many years.
Yes, there's no doubt in his pass catching abilities. You got anything to add in there, K-Mill?
I think that pretty much for everybody, he's the consensus number one. So athletically gifted, great size. 6'5", 251 pounds. I don't see top 10 potential for him, but definitely he'll go in the first round. I think there's not a doubt in my mind that'll happen. And I'm on board with the fact that he is going to be an impact, and I think that the Craig Olsen comparison is fantastic. So I really don't have anything to add besides that on him.
Yeah, I do like his pass catching abilities. I would like to see him get better as a run blocker because, I mean, that's how a lot of rookie tight ends get on the field as well. So, Tamo, who do you have as your number 2 tight end?
I went back and forth with this for a while, and I actually don't even know how to pronounce his last name, but David Njoku, I think that's how you say it, out of Miami. Yep. But I have watched a lot of game film on him, and he's fantastic. He's very similar to O.J. Howard, being an inch shorter than him and, nearly the same size as far as weight goes. And he's athletic, too. These guys are both playmakers.
Yeah, I do see him as not as fast as maybe some of the other tight ends in this league or this draft, but he is very athletic. He's very muscular and has long arms. He's willing to work the seams, and he's able to get those in and out routes. It just seems like he's a work in progress. So I think he could still stand to add like another 10 to 15 pounds of weight, and it wouldn't hurt his game at all.
Yeah, definitely.
I just finished up my rankings of tight ends, so everything is very fresh in my mind. My article comes out actually tomorrow on DynastySportsEmpire.com.
But looking forward to it.
It's David Njoku. And he stuck out to me a lot when I was watching the quarterback at Miami, Kaya.
Oh, Kaya, yeah.
Where he would just make these amazing, absolutely amazing plays that he's going to translate to the NFL. He is raw, and he really hasn't been playing football for that long. But he's a national high jump champion. He jumped 6'11" as a senior in high school. So athleticism is just it's insanity with him. So I think what's going to be fun for him, and I'll say this in fantasy, we don't give a shit about blocking, but when you have to scout these guys, you do have to scout them as far as if they can or can't block, because there's a number of these guys that just didn't do it in college. It just wasn't part of the game. So there's different levels of a tight end, whether they're inline, which is the basic tight end, which is the throwback style tight end, where they're on the line, or flex, where they're basically not on the line at all. And the league is kind of going with that sort of flex tight end a lot. And Njoku played out of the slot. Like, I don't have the percentages, but I would be willing to bet it was about 70% of the time. He can block. It's possible that he can, but he only started 9 games out of 24. So dude is pretty raw. But the thing is, like, the plays, it really translates on the field. He's a redshirt sophomore, so he's coming into the league pretty young. If he goes in the first round, okay, but he really shouldn't. It's going to be one of those like projection style things where you're going to hopefully get like a Vernon Davis down the road or something like that, where he's going to turn into an excellent blocker and also be a great playmaker at the same time. But Njoku, like when I heard that he declared, I was like, oh man, this tight end class is just stupid. Yeah, it's just icing on the cake. Like it was already good. It was already solid coming into this year. It's one of the best tight end classes I've seen. But then on top of that, Njoku comes in. It's just like, geez, this class is great.
Yeah, I do think that he will be used as like more like that move tight end type of player where he does play in the slot a lot. He finds ways to find holes in the zone, and he's very difficult to bring down afterwards too. That's probably one of his best attributes. Another one of my favorite tight ends in this class is Evan Ingram. He's very explosive. I guess we could just call him a wide receiver at this point. I mean, he runs a 4.4 40. Should he just pull a Devin Fletcher and declare as a wide receiver? Or do you think he could make some more money that way? Or do you think they should just stay at tight end?
He's stick with what he's good at.
He's I know that this is a bad word now, but he's Aaron Hernandez. He's a guy who can he can do everything Hernandez did, and Hernandez was awesome in the NFL. He was smaller. He was about the same size and could block. He's going to be a really nice chess piece for whoever gets him. I think he's going to.
He doesn't murder 3 people like Hernandez did.
Yeah, but it's really the best comp for him. Because he's definitely an H-back or a flex. He's not going to be a traditional tight end by any means. Yeah, he's a bigger wide receiver, but the dude can block. Like he can play. So he was the best player Ole Miss had for a few years. He just kind of sort of went under the radar. But this last season, 65 catches, almost 1,000 yards. And eight TDs, while Ole Miss kind of struggled a little bit this year. So, yeah, dude, Ingram's my number 2. Now, I put him over Njoku, even though I like Njoku a lot, just because I know what I see from Ingram, and he's got the experience, and he that those skills will translate to the league. I mean, like you said, dude ran a 4.4. Come on.
I mean, this dude's going to be a mismatch from hell. Like, you almost have to guard him with a defensive back. You can't really just leave a linebacker on him, So he's going to be a mismatch from hell. I really like him. I like that you put him at number 2. I think that not a lot of people would do that. I like that take.
Good.
You better. TJ, I know a lot of people will go over the radar on this guy, Gerald Everett. What are your thoughts on him? He's a guy that he only played 1 year of football in high school, and he was a former basketball player, but now he's tight end. He's played for South Alabama. How do you feel about him?
I like him. I don't love him, but I think that he's got a lot of potential. He doesn't drop the ball. He's got excellent hands, even though they're super small, even though they're 8.5-inch hands. They're actually very, very reliable. He has basically zero effort in blocking. It's just not what he's there to do. And if he does block, he shoots for their legs. Like, come on, dude. Like, it pisses me off actually to watch him block. So I think if you compare his 40 time to say like some of these other tight ends in this class, are you a little bit disappointed based on his size? He ran a 4.62. As far as tight ends go, like, dude, if tight ends are running the 4.6s, it's fine. So no, I'm fine. I'm fine with him. His other numbers were excellent. Had 37.5-inch vert. 100
under 7 3-cone.
Exactly, 6.99 in 3-cone, dude. So he's athletic enough. Like I think he's gonna be a little bit of a sleeper. Because there's some other guys that I like better than him. I don't think Everett is going to be drafted like too high. If he does get drafted very high, I think that's a mistake. Because he definitely he's going to have to work to get on the field because he's a move and a flex tight end only. Yeah. So it's it was hard. It was hard to watch him do the blocking drills at the combine. And he's not like oversized. He's not like a 6'6" guy. He's 6'3", 239 pounds. So he's got some work to do. But I think he's got potential for sure.
Samuel, is there a tight end that you want to mention?
Yeah, I mean, just very slightly. So I think that a lot of people are also really high on Jake Butt too. And he was at one point thought to be like for sure shoe-in round 1 selection. Some could even argue he was viewed as one of the tops in the class, but due to that injury, he's kind of put himself out of there. And so I think he's going to be the interesting one to see where he goes, and see who ends up taking a chance on him. And but I think he's got great intangibles. I think he could be great. They're going to sleep on him a little bit.
He's one of my favorite tight ends. He's one of my favorite tight ends. Prototypical tight end size, very strong hands over the middle, makes great catches in traffic. He makes contested catches. He can catch passes at their high point. He's able to create separation at the line of scrimmage. and he can chew up the zone coverage. But like you said, he tore his ACL the Citrus Bowl against Florida, and now he appears to take it a little bit of a stock. But he could come at a value, especially in like dynasty drafts. He has, but the only problem I have with him is he only has like one like speed or one gear when he's running his routes. Like he doesn't have like that getaway speed or able to get down deep into the field. He can be guarded by linebackers. I think a good comp for him though is like a Heath Miller. Is he elite? No. Is he sexy? No. Is he dependable and will he get you first downs? Yes. That's how I view Jake Butt.
I like that comparison.
I have the same one, and he's at number 5 to me, and just because, yeah, you're right, he does everything great. I think he just had awful luck with that ACL in his last bowl game, but he could have declared last year if he wanted to. He probably should have, because he would have, he would have been one of the top guys. I would have had Hunter Henry over him, but that's about it. He's a throwback style tight end, and I would say he's the safest tight end pick in this draft as far as an overall game, assuming that the ACL is fine. But yeah, I like this player a lot. I wouldn't expect too much fantasy value out of him. He never had a 100-yard game last year, so just the production wise, he just I don't know if he's necessarily
going to score a lot of touchdowns either.
That guy. Right, yeah, he only had 4 last year. So, but that's how they used him in the offense, and he was a great blocker. So they used him to block, and that makes a lot of sense. But yeah, I think he'll be a guy that you should keep an eye on, but not really invest a lot in.
Agreed.
Is there any other tight end that you think is getting like overlooked in this tight end class, TJ?
Well, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't mention Jordan Leggett. He's more of a.
Like Jordan Leggett comes to mind. Bucky Hodges comes to mind.
Yeah, exactly. There's more guys. There's Jeremy Sprinkle Me Down. So I like these guys in this class a lot. But Jordan Leggett, like he's my number 4. So we've rounded out my top 5. But he's more of a complete tight end than some of these other guys. Plays inline or flex. So he can do both of those. But yeah, exactly. But he'll also drop the easy ones too, which pisses me off. But but he's got huge hands. His athletic numbers are not great, but they're good enough, I guess. His blocking he does need to work on that a little bit. But he's got the skills, man. I like this player a lot, and I kind of comp him to like a Julius Thomas. So if he's put in in a tight end friendly system, I think he'll do well.
I do like him. I thought he played his heart out in the national championship game. TJ, we just we're pushing over an hour and a half at this point. We just wanted to say thank you for coming on our show in less than ideal conditions. Appreciate your insight on some of these rookies that we're talking about. Maybe we could do something like this again like next year before the draft. I thought it was a pretty good idea.
Yeah. I love talking draft. That's my thing. I'm with this podcast I've been doing for years, and I just been trying to find out where my niche is, and I really think it's the NFL draft. I've had some really good guests on, and I'm happy to come on your guys' show. I would like both you guys, because I had Johnny on last year. I'd like to get both you guys this coming up season, and we can talk about some more stuff. But yeah, thanks for having me on for NFL draft stuff.
Yeah, man, it was great.
Yeah, it's definitely a show that we don't normally touch. We're a redraft. Not a lot of people talk a whole lot about rookies and redraft. But I thought, it's hot right now. We might as well. We ain't doing nothing else, So I really appreciate you taking the time. I know you're really patient with us. So thank you very much.
Yeah, of course. And just I would just remind everyone, please subscribe to my show. I've got some really good guests coming up this season before the draft, and I'll do some dynasty talk after the draft, and find my show TJ Smith's War Room on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, and subscribe. And then I've got my articles. I rank my top quarterbacks and running back and wide receivers and tight ends, and it's all there. And I'll also be going over some IDP stuff and some defensive players later on in this year too.
So always some great stuff. It's always nice to have a fellow Fantasy Football Podcast Network person on our show. So we definitely want to do some more stuff like this in the future. If you enjoyed our show, you can go on iTunes, Fifth Down Fantasy Football, rate and review us, please. That'd be much appreciated. You can also find us on Patreon, Stitcher, and Speaker for you non-iPhone users. K-Mills, is there anything else that you want to add before we get out of here?
No, man, great show. Thanks for being on, TJ. Really appreciate it. Love hearing your expertise. So thanks for being on the show. But other than that, peace out, everybody.